How's that do with the sound when you're that far away?
Yeah, it's just,
Or you got mic though, aren't you?
no, not for this.
Okay.
No, it's all right. It's a flip.
It's the biggest we use them for. Capturing videos. If you're too far away, the sound's not there.
It's a learning tool. It's going to get better, right? You made it.
I'm Cindy Sharp from my own firm.
What's your city, what would they say, what's the company's all?
Oh gosh, you know something, it's funny, I've had one in business for 10 years now, and it's really just kind of evolved and flowed over those 10 years. 10 years ago, I was doing a lot of business to business. Right now, I'm doing transportation. I've done media training throughout the 10 years though, so that's one of my constants. Strategic planning is one of my constants. So I would say that strategic planning is probably one of the things that people come to me and say, we need somebody to look at the big picture and help us. But it's taken me through a lot of different industries. So it's been really interesting. Right now I'm kind of focusing on some transportation clients, I've got travel tourism clients. It tends to be what my background is prior to doing for business.
Do you create the content then, or do you recommend to provide transportation folks?
Well, like for the transportation folks, I work with engineering firms. And what I do is I do public outreach campaigns for transportation projects. So if they're doing an alternatives analysis on a roadway, they're legally required to engage the public in that. So that's what I do. I come in and do.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I see those folks around,
You know, the public meetings and the workshops and the charrettes and all that stuff, yes.
You do
So,
it.
you know, some engineering firms do that in-house, other engineering firms will subcontract with a person like me because they're required to have DVDs, disciplinary business software, on the team. So they'll contract with people like me to do that kind of thing. That industry I've been doing for the past 5 years. But pretty much here in District 7 for DOT. Do you do the same thing?
No,
Oh, okay. What do you do?
That's what I was, and this is what I became. I still am.
Wait a minute, this is what I was.
And I still am, but that's
Okay.
the new fun.
Oh, okay.
It's all making it a new fun. In this industry world, I was used to be at the news guy. I was always answering commercial papers and a bunch of whole, and working with a whole bunch of editors. So that's why I remember dealing with somebody in this area that was coming out of the
All right, well, we're gonna get
Okay.
started.
Yeah.
I'm teaching people doing this, and I can't do it.
Just do it yourself. I don't need to do it, right?
But yeah, I'll have to plan else.
Exactly. It's got to be strategic.
All right, everyone, this is it. Last one today, and then you've got Cha-Cha Coconuts.
Well, it's fun.
And then it's party time, but let's start the party now. Let's be lively and have lots of fun. Fall asleep. All right, Mark Regan is the Director of Online Marketing at PowerCord, a St. Petersburg-based digital brand management agency. PowerCord specializes in the management of all online aspects of a brand's customer experience, from brand awareness through purchase and its dealer network. It manages the online brands for international companies Steel, Ariens, Gravely, and Club Car. I said before, Club Car is one that I use when I'm at Disney camping with kids. Prior to joining PowerCord, Mark worked in high-tech product management and marketing for companies like IBM and Cisco and smaller startups in the Tampa Bay area. With this background in technology and marketing, he developed what is now his online marketing fanaticism. With it, he sits comfortably between the two disciplines in a position to directly impact the success of his clients. Mark sits on the advisory council of the University of South Florida St. Pete's College of Business, which is by the water, and is an alum of the University of Florida, go Gators, and Duke University's Fuqua School of Business. And you can connect with them later at LinkedIn.
Thank you.
They
Everyone.
are excited.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
It's a nice intimate group.
Let's keep it up.
So what I'm going to share with you today is an approach that we use when looking at campaigns and looking at them in a different way that allows you to make them better as you repeat them or create new ones. And we call this, we call it internally a campaign biography. And where that comes from, we're all familiar with Biography, the hour-long episodes on the A&E, now they have their own channel. And they do a wonderful job of crafting a story, a well-thought-out story of someone's life after the fact. And these stories are inspiring. They let you understand what made this person who they are, all the ups and downs that they went through, from pre-birth all the way through till their death, or not. Most of them are past people. And it's interesting to take that approach because in an hour you can learn so much from somebody, about somebody, and have experienced a lot of what made them who they are and possibly even affect your life or change your life. And that model can be taken to a campaign. But first let's talk about what is a campaign. A campaign means a lot of things to a lot of people, and in the end it really doesn't matter. But a campaign can be a traditional mass media campaign, print, TV, radio, around any of your products. It could be a communications event or a series of events about a upcoming date or some other goal that you have, trying to get a message out. It could be a presidential campaign. And what's interesting about that is that that even contains sub-campaigns of primaries and winning state elections and the like. All these things leading up to a campaign. But you want to tell the story. You just don't want to see the win. You want to understand the entire campaign. A campaign could be some seasonal event that repeats every year. And you don't want to have to start from scratch every time. And with the same tools and assets you had last time, and even the same people, what you want is to have a campaign that helps you learn. There's a movie coming out. I have two little girls, so I know this very well, and either today or next Friday. And the campaign around this is absolutely crazy. This movie acts like it's been out for years because there's so much out there. But this is a well thought out, of course, it's being produced by a machine in Disney and Pixar. But these guys know how to do it. And they're even, again, sub-campaigns inside of it with their social media and communications campaigns. And there's going to be additional ones even after post-launch and years down the road. Our biggest client, Steel, they do outdoor power equipment, chainsaws, trimmers, and blowers, has an annual event. Their 6-week selling season just ended for us a few weeks ago that they do every year. That, to us, is the ideal example of a campaign. But it doesn't really matter what a campaign is to me or to you because they all have the same aspects and they all can be viewed the same. And if you start from day zero and think about the campaign and look about the story that you want to tell and what you want to understand at the end, all these episodes that are going to air, you're going to think about it differently starting from day zero. Because in the end, you want to act differently. All of your planning, all of your design and your implementation, all these meetings, everything are going to be done differently if you plan on telling the story at the end, how you went through the campaign process and launch and through to the end. These are screenshots from one of my favorite shows, The Pitch on AMC, excuse me. I love that show. Because you want to build a story today to be told tomorrow. Because you want other people to be able to read your story out of your campaign and understand exactly what you went through and to be able to learn from it. Much like you would watch a biography. You want to be able to watch the campaign and understand how it came to be so that you can create something similar. But it's not just that. It's not just a list of to-do lists, a list of actions that we all have in creating a campaign. If you've gone through campaigns, these are the steps you go through. And those are valid and important components of a campaign, as is for us a creative brief. It's very critical to it to understand that, but that is not the story. That is not the biography of a campaign. Nor is it some magical project management software that allows you to track everything. I can't show you a project management software report after a campaign is over and you learn from it what happened on that campaign. You want to be able to tell a story. This doesn't tell a story. It's important and it's necessary to manage large campaigns, but it's not going to tell the story. And this biography model allows you to do that. It allows you to tell a story. And what you want to be able to do is tell a story to the people as it's happening. Everybody's involved. They see the steps that are going through. I'm an outside agency. I have clients, so we work with it and we work and build the biography. Some parts of it we show them, some parts of it's internal, but we allow them to help us build it so that when we do this again, we can learn from it and do it better. So that the team today and the team that we are going to work with the next time we do a campaign similar or different, it doesn't matter. And that's really where the biography model came into my head, was when thinking about a campaign, looking at it differently, I knew that I had to create something when the campaign was over, that as my team grew, as players came in and out, that we could have something to give to them that they would understand how to do it better. Otherwise, what you have is you have new people coming in and they're always behind. They never get to catch up. I would love to give them the 1 hour biography video of a campaign so that they can understand and have lived it before and have that story to tell. And that's what we want to do. When we show pictures like this, if you have been living under a rock and you see these two people, they don't mean anything to you. But I guess I would challenge you that when you saw these people, you immediately remember their stories. A lot of us saw and grew up with these people, but if you watch an hour-long biography, you would understand what their story was and what their challenges were, tragedies and successes. And that's what we want. Not that the picture is representing the biography, but we want to be able to remember that story and have learned from their lessons that they experienced. So we use that framework, this campaign biography model, to approach a campaign. So in the beginning, yes, we do all the documentation of all the processes and the steps. We follow all the best practices, but we also are trying to create something that in the end can be looked back and watched through this whole process, something very nice and concise of all the learnings, of all the steps that made the whole process what it is. Because to us, the ones who care about the campaign and have to do this again and again, that process is where the intelligence is, and that's where the value add is. If I can make that process better and better, I can do better campaigns for my clients. And so that's where we start comparing these two. There's the biography of someone's life to the campaign for our client. And we walk through this process. So in this comparison to the clients, right, the clients are the parents. The clients are the ones who conceive these new ideas. Every new idea for the client is a campaign, just like every new conceived child is for a set of parents. And these clients of ours now come to us with campaigns as though they were creating new children, and we start to plan out the life of that child. And we start doing all the prep. We start having the client meetings with them, going through all the steps to allow us to plan out and build it out, find out what their goals are, what they're trying to do, what's similar to their last child that they do, what went wrong, what went right, and then build out their plans. And we have various stages of some of the common campaigns that you go through in life. I love that. I Googled life stages. Boom. This is it. And it's typical, right? You have these life stages, and to us, on the campaign analogy, that's the schedule. You have all the typical steps for us that we go through, which is, collaborating, brainstorming, designing, implementing, launching, optimizing, closing it down, and finalizing a campaign. And so as you build through and go through these steps in the early parts of the campaign biography, and again, we're trying to learn as we understand this and trying to go through the process. So we're not just documenting, hey, this is the creative that we did, this is the designs that we came up with. We want to see what were the thought processes that went out. Not to document everything in detail, but what were the key parts of it that affected us, as if we were writing a movie about this campaign now to be shown later to somebody else? What were the processes we went through? And then the campaign starts growing, right? It gets older and older to where now we're actually seeing what this campaign is going to look like when it grows up, when it actually makes it out there on its own. We get to see the drafts, we get to see mock-ups, we get to see landing pages or websites. I'm making references to our life, but there are examples out of your life of what this is before it actually happens. And then it happens, right? The campaign graduates and it actually launches. Now it's live. This is a pivotal moment. Obviously, all this time we've been putting a ton of money into this campaign. The parents and the clients, therefore, have been putting all this money into the campaign. Now, much like a child who's finally graduated from college, now the money producing is coming in. The campaign is finally paying back, hopefully if it's done right, and giving us value out of it. But there are problems along the way, much like in anyone's life, right? We break our arms, we make some stupid mistakes, and we misjudge, we don't really know what's going on, and that is true for campaigns, right? We have technical difficulties, things break, we didn't think of things correctly, but that's okay. If we don't document why we broke our arm, we just say, hey, we broke our arm, or we just had a technical difficulty, there's no learning in there. The biography should document it as, we made this mistake, we made this assumption. We thought our competition was one thing, but it actually ended up being another. Don't just document, we changed because of competition, we changed this to this. Why? What assumptions were wrong? So that when you look back and read this biography, you have that learning opportunity. And in the end, you tell a story. But the story is not, this is not the biography. This is just the client report in the analogy. This is just what is delivered. I can't give you a client report on one of my campaigns and you would have experienced the whole campaign and have any learnings from it. Nor could you sit and listen to 20 eulogies of someone that you never heard of and understand their entire life. But if someone produced a 1-hour video in the biography style, you would actually have experienced their life. And that's the idea behind it. This reports that are created, because people, like, we talk about this campaign biography, they're thinking of, oh, that's the client report at the end. And it's not. Client report is just like a eulogy. It's always positive, right? It's always good stuff. It doesn't have the learnings in there. Again, maybe even if you're really tight with your client, it's going to have some of the learnings in there, but important, it's going to talk about some of the other things. We want to build a story today to be told tomorrow. That's what we're trying to do, not create the reports. While we do create the reports, this different approach for you is about building it differently, because we don't want to just talk about the reports. We don't want to talk about certain numbers that are important to people, like clients, to understand. They need to know how much money was generated, but I can't give all this information to you and say, here's how this campaign did, and the next year we're going to do better, unless we know how we did it, how we got to that number, and to know that we can do it better next year. And we do that through stories. So that other people, because unless you have a tight team and you know that for the next 10 years you're going to have the same people doing these campaigns over and over again, if so, then you don't need to document anything. Just let it be in everybody's heads. But I don't know many companies that are like that, except for maybe a one-person company. We're growing. We're having new people, new young people come in. How do I get them up to speed overnight? Otherwise, they're just always going to be in learning mode. I can give them a biography. And a lot of this is not, well, we actually are creating biographies. It's always a goal. And it's almost an unachievable goal, but it's a goal and it actually gets you there faster. Because, again, it's not the reports at the end, or in this case, in this analogy, the ring that's in there. What we want is the stories. A ring alone, while of value, and it represents something, the success and everything, I want to see the stories. I want to hear how the ring came to be. Now, you can look at the ring and it might remind you, but only after you've heard the story. You have to have heard the story to understand what the ring represents. Otherwise, it's just a ring. Just like a client report is just a client report unless you understand the story. And again, this is the key point for me, is that I want to understand it. I want to tell a story so that the next generation can learn from it, so they can get better at it and do it better and try to create better campaigns. Otherwise, the same thing is going to happen over and over again. We're going to repeat the same mistakes. The people are going to come in. We're not going to have told them. They're not going to understand. And they're going to repeat the same mistakes we have. So these campaign biographies, conceptually, are just recipes, right? Keep creating these recipes. We all have recipes for things we might cook at home, and we can share them. You can give me a recipe for your cookies, and I can take it home and I can cook it. Now, I might then tweak it and create my own recipe from it, but it works. So I should be able to create campaign biography, and if we are both in the same space, I can give it to you and you can have learned from it versus just a client report. Put it all into your recipe box. Pull them out when you're ready to do another campaign that's similar. Someone wants chocolate chip cookies with oatmeal in it, so now I can pull out my chocolate chip cookie recipe and realize, all right, I just need to tweak it a little bit to make it something. And that grows. If you don't do that, you end up with this. You end up with looking at the same ingredients all the time. I have campaigns that start all the time, and I can look at it. My ingredients are money, my ingredients are pay-per-click, tools, email. I can do all of this stuff around the digital campaign. But if I don't know how to do them, the right way to integrate them, then I'm just going to continue to make the same mistakes. It's just like you putting me in the kitchen. I'm a horrible cook. You put me in a kitchen and give me all of the perfect ingredients and give me the final product and tell me, make the sugar cookie. I can't do it. I need the recipe. I need to follow someone else's recipe. Then I can do it again and again and slowly change it and turn it into my own recipe. That's the same thing with this campaign biography. And so what you do is you start out small, you create that single cupcake. You build a recipe around it, and you keep trialing and doing it differently. You create this campaign without causing a train wreck and changing your entire process and getting crazy. And then eventually you start to build and create masterpieces. These campaigns get better, you try new things, and you get better works out of it. The key takeaway here, you want to build a story today to be told tomorrow. It's just a different way of thinking, and that's the key takeaway I want to share with you is starting at the beginning, think about the story, not the client report. That's the data collection part of it. What's the story you want to tell, whether it's internal or to the client? What's the story you want to tell so you can do this better the next time, so that other people can have a takeaway from it? It's a hard task. We haven't mastered it yet, but we're slowly getting there to make it better so that other people can read these biographies. Have a choice. That's it. Thank you. Mr. Grossman said, any questions? No, I know. That's good.
It's almost like a submission for like a silver anvil or something. You can't just give them a client report. You have to explain how you got there, and then as PRSA members, we can go online and look at past silver anvil submissions, which I guess are, you said a biography of the campaign to help us with our future campaigns.
So I'm going to show my non-PRSA. I don't know what a silver anvil is.
It's one of the highest
Okay.
awards in PRSA. It's, you know, it's an award based on a campaign, and for an agency or someone to win it, it's pretty darn prestigious.
So there's someone here on the previous session. She's not here. Well,
She
said-
was right there.
she said, it's like a silver anvil. She goes, but it's not a silver anvil. So I'm going to, those of you that know what it is, it's more than a silver anvil.
I think it's more than a silver.
That was her report.
So, I mean, really, your biographies, you should share them with, really for your own business, because I can't imagine giving all my secret recipe to my catty neighbor, because then she's
Right.
gonna make it, and then I don't have my secret recipe anymore.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. That's
Okay, so this is internal.
when right. But you think of, but it's thinking of it as if someone external were going to read it.
Okay.
I think that's how I want to do it, right?
Like
If I take that analogy, I'm making that movie, I'm sorry, if I make that movie, I'm not making it for myself to watch again and again. I'm making it so that I can show you the movie and you can see that person's life. That's what I want. Now that, I guess you're internal and that's the model, but I want to make it, that's the problem it solves, is how does it catch you up versus just that client report? Sorry.
I was going to say, like your mentoring, you know, something that you said that resonated with me is a new team member comes on and they know what to do and they know how to do it right because they can see what you did and what worked and what didn't work so that they do what worked and they don't do what didn't work.
Right.
Tactically, how do you document these biographies?
We do it one way.
You kept mentioning movies and stuff.
Right.
What do you?
No, it's a Word doc, and for us it's different by who's in charge of it, right? I mean, someone might do it by date and have almost a diary model, right? Someone might actually write in prose a story and say this is what we went through after they had documented everything. But you have to think about writing it from the beginning, because unlike writing Michael Jackson's video biography, all these assets are out there, all these stories are out there, and someone, a biographer, it looks different, and like I said, depending on who does it. As long as it tells the story, and that concisely, what are the learnings, what were the mistakes, where did we screw up? Because that's, I want to see who screw up, and I was telling before, my wife watches, and I watch with her, Oprah has on the Oprah channel, their equivalent of the biography, and I see it more over there than I do in some others, is that they talk about someone's life, and then there's this 5-year window where they were nobody in the world, and nobody knew of them, and 5 years later, they're world famous. And I'm like, what happened in that 5 years?
Right.
That's where that's where I was going to learn about this person's life. I don't want to go, oh, now they're famous. All right, I'm jet. I want to see what that's, I don't care about anything else. I already know about the other stuff. I want to know what happened in those 5 years, because that's where I can learn from this person. If I wanted to be a world famous actor, that's where they did something different than everybody else. Versus just seeing that they're an actor and they're creating movies now. That's the client report. I want to see the story. It's hard to achieve.
So I guess, coming off of her question, I guess what you're saying is that there's a Word document that's created that pretty much gives kind of almost a week by week or a day by day accounting of the campaign as it progressed. So do you have does your account executive, do they sit down on a daily basis, almost blog about what happened, and then at the end of the campaign, do they write, whether it's a timeline or a story about how the campaign evolved and progressed? I mean, and then at the end of the day, is the biography, like you said, just a written document to say, gee, do you remember on this day we had this happen? I mean,
Right.
I'm not quite understanding the
So different
concept.
people are in
so-
charge of it on my team.
So-
And they're usually the account managers, they're not the implementation team,
Mhm.
and they're not me. That kind of get assigned this, and it's a project management equivalent, right? Because they have to understand all the projects, and there's a timeline in there in the biography in the beginning in terms of data capture, and the last item on that timeline is finalize the biography.
Okay, so they're probably capturing those things as they go, and
Right.
then when they have to finalize it, they have this information that they might not remember. They
Right.
waited till the end of the day of all of those things happen. So they probably do maybe some kind of almost like a daily journal or
Well,
something?
we'll say that, and make sure we put that in the biography
Okay.
all the time.
Okay.
The problem is we don't always remember to do that.
Yeah.
But that's what we say, remember, or we don't realize that what we just experienced was something very important
Important for the
that needs to go in the
biography,
biography
right.
until
That's
we're
what I'm
like
thinking.
later.
It's almost like you have to journal every day with the thinking of, this is biography stuff.
Yeah.
And so that when if I was that account manager and at the end of the day I had to write that biography, if I didn't have that daily journal
They won't
with
have
my memory, forget about it. So I was just wondering if
Yeah.
that's what your
It has
account
to be done
managers
like
do.
that, because I remember out of school, I went to work for IBM, I was a software developer, and I never experienced corporate life in software development, and at the end of a project at IBM, we always had a postmortem. And postmortem, all these really smart people got into a room and go, what did we learn off of this project? And people would raise their hand and say, throw out a couple of nuggets here and there. And I'm like, I didn't know we were supposed to be capturing our learnings from this and all the mistakes we made. Let's talk about the postmortem, to me, is kind of close to it, but the postmortem is done at the end. We look back, well, what did we learn back there? I don't know, because I don't remember it. But if you think at the beginning about writing the postmortem and creating the story from the beginning, you'll do it differently. And you'll think differently and better. And then actually, do it again. Like Toyotathon or our Steel Dealer Days, it repeats. We do this again for our clients, or we do it very close.
You share it with the client?
Parts of it.
The parts that make you look good.
Right.
You want the reports go in as like a board?
Yeah, so our clients are 10-year clients. We've had them, kids' names and stuff. We know them for a long time. And so we're loud, I was going to say. We air most of our dirty laundry, most of our mistakes. And so we talk about the biography. We clean it up before it goes. Because it's not meant for client
Right,
eyes.
it's not good for them,
But we pull information out of it.
Right.
Like, remember last year we did this, and it threw everything off the tracks.
But this year, we did it this way,
Yes.
and that's why you want to hire me for next year.
Exactly.
That's smart. I can see how, and I work for a government agency, and we do events all the time.
Right.
Ribbon cuttings, dedication events, fancy special creating a facility in honor of someone who died, and there's a lot of emotional connection for the family of those people, and so you don't want anything to go wrong. And whatever has to go wrong, you really just hope it's very minimal, and you try to plan and over-plan for everything. And sometimes you get thrown a curveball, and I think why this resonates for me so much is it's really important to share those curveballs with your team members, because that same thing is probably going to happen to them on their next ribbon cutting or their next dedication of the building. So you maybe help others learn from your mistakes.
And what I like about the ribbon cutting and that small cupcake that I was talking about, at least to me as an outsider, ribbon cutting sounds like a small place to start because there's rather tight events.
Right.
That's the right place to start where you start collecting. Now you can create multiple biographies very quickly over a short period of time versus the Toyota-thon example where you're doing that once a year and it's huge. And that's where you kind of cut your teeth and get used to this idea of how you do it. So you can give a ribbon cutting to someone on their second day. Here, first day read this, second day you have the next 5 ribbon cuttings. That's an extreme, but that's the idea. I can catch you up. I can bring you up to speed quickly by having you get caught up. And now you're a seasoned veteran of ribbon cutting by having watched these 5-hour biographies. Well, not watch, read.
Right. And attended and acted as maybe a second-hand helper at the next ribbon cutting you do.
Right. Because you felt like you've already learned that you experienced it. If it's well written, you got to experience that entire ribbon cutting as if you were there. That's, if you're growing a team, that's important. You're going to try to repeat stuff. It's important to be able to do that. Otherwise you're learning each time, just doing it over and over. Go forward and learn.
Great. Well, Noel and Angela have some storytelling to do about this conference. So in 7 years, when it's back here again, it'll be better.
Yeah.
So look for a bigger, better conference in 7 years.
We should start a biography for each conference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks, everyone.
And everybody, don't
5:25.
forget, Cha-Cha Coconuts, 7 o'clock, take the trolley, enjoy lots of butter.
Do you work for government too?
Yeah. Another government. Oh, fun.
I totally get it. Yeah, it's really good to, you can like train people where you have, like, obviously, outside of marketing. Have that, you're always gonna have, if you're not the owner, people are gonna leave.
Yeah, and that's so true. I think have coworkers who kind of does this sort of thing. It's hard, like, plans it out, and then she follows